Hello, stamping friends. It's Angie here with Too Cool Stamping, and I am so excited to be here with you for another live class. This time, another floral for this summer. We've had several. This one is called the Floral Impressions Suite, and it all starts with the Impressions Abloom Bundle. Before we get started, just a reminder that I do have a free class kit that you can earn. I'll be sharing 5 cards with you today, and you can earn all of the supplies to make those cards by just putting in an order of $55 or more at toocoolstamping.com. Click on the Shop Now link, and you have an earning period from the 15th, I believe, until the 27th. I went back to the 15th for anybody who had an order in the kind of retroactively, and then you have until the August 27th of 2025 to earn that free kit. And you can get all of the information. I'll have that updated on my toocoolstamping.com page if you would like to get more information. All right, let's get started and take a look at what this beautiful suite has to offer. First of all, our gorgeous bundle. We have the Impressions Abloom stamp set. It has lovely 2-step stamp images. It has kind of a distinctive pattern in it so that it's very, very fine detailed and gives you lots of dimension and shading. You also have some different layers of the stamping as well. So you have not only the different sizes of blooms, but you have some dots to go into the centers as well, and some leaves that are also 2-step stamping. You'll have some different sentiments here as well. It's in a really pretty font, and you can do a little bit of mixing and matching for that. What I really love is the die set that goes with this particular bundle. This really steps up the versatility of this set. It makes it go next level. First of all, you have these beautiful kind of a modern oval dies in a very large size. They're going to layer together, and they'll also there's some detailing on this one. So this one cuts out the inside as the label, but then it has the detailing and an outer layer as well. So you can have a frame that you can attach as well. And I'll show you what that looks like when we get to a card. We're not using the frame on the card, but I'll show you what that looks like. Then we also have these gorgeous flowers. These are the outlines of all of the stamped flowers, but then you'll see the detailed dies that go in the center of them. So you can add that to your cardstock and make beautiful paper cut flowers. And so you can create all kinds of bouquets, not only with the stamped version, but also the die cut paper version. There's leaves that are like that as well. They cut out the stamped leaves, as well as having the detailed layer that you can add to it to do a paper bloom. Stems, little tiny flowers, and then there's some additional leaves, and you can either use these for leaves or petals that you can cut out of paper as well. So lots and lots of versatility for layering and really getting creative with how you want to put together your wildflowers. All right, let's look at some more from this stamp set, or from this suite. Of course, we have the gorgeous paper. And I don't know about you, but Stampin' Up! Has been absolutely outdoing themselves with the floral paper lately. I mean, just absolutely gorgeous. So I'll look at all of these different patterns with you, and you can see so many beautiful colors. I really love this one. And don't forget, this has strawberry slush in it, so that means it's part of the In Color sale that's going on right now. You get 15% off any item that has any of the 2025 In Colors in them. And so this one does. So you're going to get this pack of Floral Impressions paper. Did I show you the back? I don't even know what I'm showing you now. I'm like talking. So you can get this pack of Floral Impressions paper for just $10.63. So really, really a great deal right now. And that lasts until the end of August of 2025. Some fresh freesia on the back. So I love how they have beautiful florals. These are all watercolored, hand watercolored by Stampin' Up! Artists. And then they color correct them to match our colors perfectly, so they're going to coordinate with everything that you put together. I actually really love this last one because it's kind of it's like a summary of all of the different papers and gives you a little bit of a rainbow effect as well. Beautiful for a scrapbook page, or we're going to use just one little strip here on one of our cards that I'll show you in a minute. So that's the Floral Impressions Designer Series paper. Again, it is on sale this month. And then we have, I don't know how well you can see this, but we have the Pressed Flowers embossing folder. So, so beautiful. Just a little hint of flowers at the bottom. So it creates a really pretty background for, either elements for your cards or scrapbook pages. Really awesome. And then the final is the embellishments that go with it. This is the Strawberry Slush and Pretty in Pink Gems. Yes. And so you have the Strawberry Slush down here, the Pretty in Pink here, and then you also get some clear that have a little bit of gold tinge to them. I think it'd look great with pecan pie, and just really coordinates so well with a lot of these different papers. So we'll be using that for some of our cards as well. So that's the Floral Impressions Suite. Absolutely gorgeous. Again, I'm going to start showing you all of our cards. If you're interested in making those yourself, you can earn a free class kit with a $55 minimum order. Just go to toocoolstamping.com. I'll have all the details there, and there's a shop now link. You can place your order there as well. You'll have until August 27th to earn that class kit, and you'll get a tutorial with that as well. All the different supplies. You'll just have everything that you need. Okay, let's get started with the first card. And I did a little sneak peek, so you might have already seen some of these cards. I don't normally do that, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to give you just a little teaser of what we're going to be doing today. I'm starting out with a vertical fold this time, a little different for me, but it's 4 1/4 by 11, and it's scored at 5 1/2. So we'll fold that in half. We're going to start right away by doing some stamping, and let me get my stamp pads over here. We're going to start with Daffodil Delight, a little background stamping with our leaf pattern. I just want to make sure I don't have any other color on there. All right, so just to get started here, I've already die cut this shape from the Nested Essentials dies, and so I'm going to have that as the background for my focal point. So I want to kind of have some of these leaves peeking out from behind that focal point. And it's going to be about here and centered. So I'm just going to add some of these leaves, and maybe some over here. Just kind of peeking out wherever you want them. All right. Yep, that'll look really good. Now I'm going to add a piece of the Floral Impressions paper. This is 4 1/4 by 2, and we'll add that to a piece of pecan pie. That is 4 1/4 by 2 1/4. And you'll see why in a minute why I made this a vertical card. But I'm going to put this down here at the bottom, and then I'm going to wrap some, ribbon around it. This is some beautiful textured ribbon, and I don't even know, I can't remember what the name is, and I'm thinking there's a ribbon that they've had for a while that's just like a basic white ribbon, and it didn't really have a name, and I think this is the one, but it's very textured, but it's still very easy to tie. It's very thin, and it's very pliable. It's not stiff, so it's very easy to tie. I love to do a double knot, as you know, instead of a ribbon. That way I don't have to fuss about it. And we'll just add that around the bottom here. Cute little bow. And then we'll start to build our focal point layer. with our Nested Essentials basic white die cut. I'm going to show you our sentiment in pecan pie first. And the sentiments are nice because you kind of can build them. So this one is going to say thanks. So we'll have that one as well as for being here. So I'm going to put for being here first because it's at the bottom. And then thanks over the top. Thanks for being here. And we'll just add that right onto our background with some seal adhesive. You could pop it up if you wanted to. I'm going to pop up another layer so I don't want to make it too tall because the post office just really doesn't like that very much. All right, now let's do some stamping. So I want to do two different flowers, or two of the same flowers actually. And what I've noticed, at least in the cards that I'm making, I'm starting with the two-step. I'm starting with the detailed one, and then I'm filling in with the solid color, just because it's a lighter color and it's harder to see, basically, when you're trying to stamp those colors. So I'm going to start with, and we do a lot of stamping off on this. I was trying to mimic some of the coloring on the paper, but I didn't want it to get too dark. So I'm using Calypso Coral. I'm going to stamp off once and then stamp on here. Stamp off and then stamp on there. And then I'm going to use some Daffodil Delight. And we'll do that with the, here we go, trying to find my different flowers. We'll do that with our solid color. And you can see that's kind of dark, but I want it to be a lot lighter. So let's get this lined up. Now, make sure that when you put it on your, I had this all lined up so I wouldn't have to be doing a lot of this moving around, but then I move my stamps. So that's what happens. But once you get it figured out, oops, we don't want to have full strength. We want to have stamped off a bit. So you can see if when you go right over the top, if you do the darker color first, that's going to help you out. So there are my two flowers. I'm going to do a little inner piece, and that will be with, let me get my little center. So I'm going to again do the detailed first, and this is Early Espresso. And then I like to put both of my stamps on one block just to make it easy so I don't have to go searching for them. So put one on one side, one on the other. And I'm going to use, actually I'm going to use crushed curry for this one, just to give it a little bit of a darker center. All right, so there are my flowers. And let me close all my ink pads up so I don't get my fingers stuck in them or accidentally drop them. Don't get my fingers stuck in them. See what I just did there? I spoke too soon. All right, so I've already die cut those with the corresponding dies, the Impressions Abloom dies. And actually, I see what I did there. I used the little, you can see the difference here. You can use the little center, which looks absolutely fabulous, but I was trying to mimic the larger center, and I forgot that I did that. So I did use the larger center on the ones that I pre-made, and you can see the difference there. So I have those two ready to go. I've also done a couple of die cuts here for some leaves. Now these are fun little shapes that they look like leaves, and they also look like flowers. So you can use them kind of interchangeably, however you want to use those on your card. So I'm going to put both of these flowers kind of here. I'll get some dimensionals out for that. And I know I'm going to shock you, but I'm not going to use very many dimensionals because I want to be able to tuck those leaves underneath. So those of you who know me, I like to use a lot of dimensionals, but we're just gonna bypass that for today. So there's one. There's another. And then you could use some Tombow glue if you wanted to. I'm just going to use a little dab of my seal just to make it quick. And we're going to tuck these leaves underneath the flower. So that's why, whoops, that's why I didn't want a whole lot of dimensionals on there. All right. We're going to finish up with some low profile dots in Pretty Peacock, or not Pretty Peacock, that is so not right. Petal Pink. I don't know where my mind was there, but Pretty Peacock. And you can put, we're going to do 3, so a couple, let's do one here, and then another one here. All right, so there is our first card. So pretty. I love that 2-step stamping. I was trying to match the designer series paper, but there's so many different combinations of colors that you could put together for the cards. Just so many. All right, let's move on to our next card. This one is one of my favorites. And it's because I love the coloring. We're going to start out with a little bit of a non-traditional card base. This is Pool Party. It's 7 inches by 5.5, and it's scored at 2 3/4. These are a lot of my 2 cool colors. So here's the designer series paper. This is 2.5 by 5 1/4. We'll put that on the front flap of this fun fold card. And then I also want a little bit down the side, so I have a pool party. You can kind of see that pattern on the inside of the card that shows through, like so. So there is our card background. Now I want to show you the fun ovals and how they look. So we have a larger oval. I have die cut fresh freesia here, and then I have a basic white oval, and that fits neatly right in there with just a little mat showing behind it. And when you cut that white, you also have this piece, which is a little bit of a trim piece. You can see the decorative dotted faux stitching there, and that is actually bigger than that fresh freesia. So if you wanted to use that together, you could adhere those together and then put fresh freesia over it, and it just would barely peek out. Or you could use that as a frame, and that looks so, so pretty. So if you like that look, you could do it that way. I did not do it that way just because I was going for a different look. So I'll show you what I had in mind here. So I did some die cutting first and did some stems and some leaves for some flowers. So let me put these together. Put our layers together to start with. All right, then we'll get out our Tombow glue and add our stem, and you just want a teeny bit, little tiny bit on there. You don't want it kind of sneaking out from under there. And I'm going to put this clear down at the bottom and also up in the center. And I'll put one of these. Again, you could use seal or the Tombow. One of these is going to go about right here. And another one over here. All right, let's add some beautiful flowers. Let me show you how I stamped these 3 flowers. We're going to use all 3 sizes that are in the set. Again, I'm going to start with our detailed one and then fill it with the solid. Let me get some of my ink pads out of here. All right, so we're going to start with the large one, and I'm going to stamp in, let's see, I had to write it down because there's like a certain recipe that I did here. I did petunia, and actually I think I might have stamped off once. Let me see. No, I did the full petunia. So I did petunia, pop, and then for the filler, I did fresh freesia, which, oh my goodness, did I not bring it? Well, I don't have it here for some reason. So we'll do, if you don't have fresh freesia, then you can use stamped off petunia pop. That's what I'll use. But in my notes, we will be, and I'll show you what it looks like because I have a die cut that's already done. And actually that looks pretty much like fresh freesia. So it can be stamped off petunia pop if you want to. So there's our first flower. And then let me get another couple here. Some scrap paper. We're gonna do Misty Moonlight for our middle flower. And let me just get this one cleaned off because we just used it. Using my Simply Chamois from my glass mat. So this is Misty Moonlight, and then to fill it in, I'm going to stamp off and then fill that in with stamped off Misty Moonlight. So there's our first 2. And then the final one, the small flower, is this one. We're going to do Balmy Blue. I'm going to do full strength Balmy Blue. And then I'm going to flip it over to my solid color, and I'll use this little sheet again for my stamp off, and then get it lined up here for my filler. So there is my third one. And then for the centers, let's get those done real quick. I have the larger center that I'll do in detailed first with Blackberry Bliss, and then I'll do the petunia pop stamped off for the center fill. So that flower is finished, and there's my die cut. Next I have Misty Moonlight for my smaller one. Let me get my yellow or my early espresso from my previous card off. So I have Misty Moonlight for this one, and then stamped off for the fill, and then also for the Misty Moonlight one. So those are the 3 flowers. So it takes a little bit of time, but you can experiment with so many different colors and fun little I call them flavors of flavors of blooms. So don't be afraid to kind of mix it up. All right, we're going to add this to our card front first. And we only want it to obviously be adhered to this part. So make sure that you kind of center it where you want it. Make sure that you don't have your seal going any farther over. If you wanted to pop this one up, again, you could. And there is our opening. And then we'll use some dimensionals again to pop these up. And we already have our leaves, so those are good to go. I'm going to start with my large flower and put that over here. Medium one, I'm going to kind of tuck in. You can have it kind of busting out of the frame there if you want, or keep it all neatly inside. And then this one I'll tuck in kind of, actually I'll put it right over here. I don't like that little hole there. Let's go like that. There we go. So there is our flowers. And then we're going to finish up with a sentiment. I've already stamped that. It's Pool Party. I'll give you the dimensions here. This is 3 by 3/4, and I've stamped it in the Misty Moonlight color. We'll put a few dimensionals here and pop that right over the top. I appreciate you. We're going to use some of the strawberry slush. Actually, I'm going to use the pretty and pink ones. I think work a little bit better. We'll put some of those on there. And there's a lot of variegation there, so I might put it up there. All right, so there's our card. I like the positioning of my original better, so I'll slide that in there and show you the final card. And then I'll also give you this. It's kind of a peekaboo style. We did that for our last class, for the Floral Charms class, and I love that style. So you could do a little bit of stamping on the inside, and then it just has instead of just, you could just have a little rectangle part for the writing, but I love this peekaboo style that fits so nicely there. So there is our second card. All right, our third card is going to begin with Strawberry Slush. And this is just a 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4, just a standard card. We're going to add a piece of basic white. This is, let me just measure it, I believe it's 3 3/4 by 5, yes. And before we do that, actually, let me add on, I have a 3 3/4 by 1 1/4, or 1 1/2, I should say, piece here of the Floral Impressions paper. And that will go right along the bottom edge here. And this was that rainbow sheet I was talking to you about. So, you know, you might think, oh, how am I going to use that on a bunch of cards? But you can just use a couple of colors that you want, and there's just lots of variation there. All right, I have a tiny little strip here of Timid Tiger that's going to go right across there. This is 3 3/4 by 1/2. Just kind of give that a finished look. And we'll add that to our card front with seal. All right. Next, I have a Textured Notes basic white die cut. I love the Textured Notes dies. If you don't have those already, that is a classic one, a must-have for your collection. So we'll start with that, and then we have some Garden Green ink. We're going to stamp a stem this time. Let me find that. And whoopsie, I'm going to stamp off. I don't want it to be too dark. A lot of these things are stamped off. I just felt like it looked a little bit better. Otherwise it was getting way, way too dark. I've also stamped and die cut a couple of leaves, again, in the garden green, stamped off. So those are ready to go. And I'm gonna go ahead and pop those up. Actually, let's put these, I think that's all I need for the background there. Let's put this on a little mat. So this is a strawberry slush mat. Let me give you the measurements on that. This is 2 3/8 by 3 7/8. And then I will add that with seal to my card front. And I don't think I mentioned the texture on the embossed background was Forever Plaid. I don't know why I forgot to tell you that, but I did. Okay, let's do a little bit of edging here for our leaves. The dimensionals are just a little bit too thick, too wide, so we'll use some of the edging. I always like to get to maximize that. Don't let it go to waste, don't throw it away. We'll put one here, and then what did I just do with that? Oh, things stick to you. All right, and then we're gonna finish up with a beautiful bloom, and I'm gonna stamp that with some stamped off strawberry slush to start with. And let's see, this is the large bloom again. So we'll stamp it once, stamp it off. And then I did a stamped off Timid Tiger. And that's what that strip is there. So that will work beautifully. Let me find my, here we go. Clean that off with my chamois. Stamp off once. And then right over the top. And then I did pecan pie in the center with the stamped off Timid Tiger again, and then did a little die cut for that. We'll pop that up with dimensionals just for a really pretty single bloom. And then for this one, I want to center that just a little bit better. I like the look of the stem goes up in between two petals, but you want to kind of make it centered in here. So just kind of rotate however you need to make that work. We're going to finish off with a sentiment. I've already stamped the thanks, and then I just stamped that on basic white and used my paper snips to cut that out. And we'll pop that up with some more dimensionals. So again, this is something we're probably going to need to use some edging here, and maybe even just a half of a dimensional. It's even going to be skinnier for the one side. You could also use your mini dimensionals if you wanted to. And then we'll pop that right in here. Let's move that over a little bit. There we go. We're going to finish up with some more of those gems that come in the suite, and I'm just going to use 2 of them. And I liked how these white ones kind of had that pecan pie look, a little bit of goldish tint to it like the pecan pie. So I'm just going to use 2 to kind of offset that, and that is our third card. All right. The next one starts with Poppy Parade, 5.5 by 8.5, scored at 4 1/4. This will be another vertical card. And this one is a great layout for using up your scraps. So if you have a lot of little scraps you don't quite know what to do with, this is a fun one to try. Now I started with that pressed flowers embossing folder. Hopefully you can see that. I hope the camera is picking that up, but it's such a pretty folder. A lot of flowers down here, but then up here it's nice and smooth. So just kind of a fun look. And you can use it, I really like both sides. The deboss side is really pretty as well. So this is just a tiny bit smaller than a card front. So it's going to be 4 1/8 by 5 3/8. And it's also in that Poppy Parade. All right, we have some Blackberry Bliss here, and this is 3 1/4 by 4 1/4. And then I've already cut up some Floral Impressions Designer Series paper. This is all 1.5 wide, and then 2.5 long for the florals. And then the back sides are 1.5 square. So these are going to go here. So a little paper patterning in the background. So let me use some seal to put that together. And I'm only going to give you just like 1/8 of an inch or even smaller for the edge here. And the final piece. This one is a really fast one, but I love that you can just use any coordinating paper here, and it's so fun. All right, I'm going to add this directly to my card front. And next I have already die cut using the double dies on here. Let me show you again. So you have the outline, that's what we've been using to die cut the stamped version, and then we have that inner detailed, and that's what makes the beautiful detailing on that flower. So pretty. So we have that. And that's in Poppy Parade. We have this in Pecan Pie, and then also a couple of garden green leaves to match. I'm going to add one little detail. You can do this or not, it doesn't matter, but I'm going to use some Blackberry Bliss and a sponge dauber and just give it a little bit of Blackberry Bliss all the way around. And the only reason I'm doing this is because, again, I'm trying to kind of mimic a little bit of what these flowers might look like on the paper. So I thought that little detail just added a little something. You could do without it if you didn't like that. All right, we're gonna, let's see, let's get our sentiment on there first. That's gonna be another thanks. Have to find it, here it is. Clean it up a little bit. We're gonna stamp thanks in Blackberry Bliss. And we're going to keep it toward the edge here. And then we'll pop that up with some dimensionals. And I'm going to have it coming in right where that kind of meets up. I'm also going to have it poking out of our little frame there, our little background element, just for some interest. And then I'm going to add this piece right over the top. So part of it's going to need a little bit of seal behind it. And then the rest is going to need some dimensionals. So let's just put 2 on there. We'll add that right over the top. And then we'll stick a couple of these, just tuck them in underneath our flower. All right, this one we're going to use the Strawberry Slush. I was talking with someone earlier about this. I don't know why I start taking them out of the middle instead of the edge. It seems wrong, but for some reason I'm doing it. So do you usually start from the edge? Do you just take them from anywhere, or do you start from the middle? How do you take your gems off of your sheet? It's kind of funny. Hadn't ever thought about it before. So there is our fourth card. Very simple and very pretty. All right. The final card, another fun fold card. And it's a little bit different, and I've never really done this card before. I saw this, got it as part of a swap, and it was really kind of cool. So I knew I had to share it with you. This is 7.5 by 5.5, and then it's going to be scored at 3 1/4 and 6.5, and it's scored one way and then the other. And I'll show you. You know what? I don't think this is correct, actually, now that oh, yes, it is. Okay. Sorry, I'm getting confused. So this little piece, it's like I said, it's a kind of a new fold for me. And it's a little bit silly. So it's kind of a Z fold. So here's the front, again, like our other card that we did, kind of has that look, where it has a shortened front. But this time, we have this piece that's going to bend backwards, and I'll show you why in a minute. I don't think, did I not do my, oh my gosh. Well, I just screwed up big time because I forgot to cut my paper, my designer series paper for my card. So we're going to kind of build this backwards. I like to start with the background first, but we're going to start with our focal point, and then I'll show you the cool element on my finished card, okay? Sorry about that. Every once in a while, your brain just isn't clicking. So I have a 2 3/8 inch punch for this white piece. Then I have a Stylish Shapes die cut, and this is in Blackberry Bliss. And before we put that together, we're going to add the sentiment. So let me find my thanks again and clean it off. We're going to use Blackberry Bliss. And let's do the bottom again first. I kind of like to build from the bottom. So we're going to do so very much, and then thanks. We'll adhere this. I can't believe I forgot to cut my paper. So silly. All right. So here's going to be our focal point, and it's going to kind of go right here. Then I'm going to do some paper flower die cutting, and I've already done that with some Timid Tiger and a couple of Strawberry Slush pieces. And then I used my Blackberry Bliss to add some detail color there. So let's get that. I stamped directly on there. So we'll do it again here and again on here. So those flowers are done. And then we also have a couple of Misty Mauve. That is not even a color anymore. Misty Moonlight. I'm so thrown that I don't have that paper. It's just like, what did I do there? Anyway, let's put these on. We're moving on. We're going to add one dimensional behind each one. We'll start with the Timid Tiger. I'm going to go like this. We're going to add a Strawberry Slush right there. Another Strawberry Slush down here. And then we'll just use a little bit of seal, or you could use a glue dot, or you could use, actually I might use a glue dot just because. It's not wanting to go on there very well. Let's use a glue dot. I'm going to use a couple. And again, tuck these right underneath our flowers, and then I want one over by the other strawberry slush. Like so. Just tuck that in there nice and neat. All right, I'm going to finish this up. I'll show you with my textured dots. And then I will show you the cool part of this card. All right, so this is going to be our focal point. So what we're going to do, you're going to have paper over this. You're going to put another designer series paper on this side, and then this is going to be adhered to the short side. So you have to tip it back in order to open it. So that's kind of the fun little element on this one. Let me show you the completed card so you know exactly what I'm talking about. So here's the completed card. I put on some Floral Impressions paper that was 3 by 5 1/4 and also 3/4 by 5 1/4 in the Fresh Freesia pattern. I also put on some of the beautiful gold, can't remember the name of that either, but this gold ribbon is so sparkly and pretty. I loved how that went with those textured dots so well. And then you can see that I just put some dimensionals on the back of this, on that short piece, and then you just tip it back and then open it up, and then you'll have your writing space in here, so it'll look pretty when it's closed. So that's kind of a fun little, I've never seen anything like that, so can't remember who even showed that to me, but it's such a fun little little element there. Kind of tucks right in there. So anyway, sorry that I screwed that card up, but hopefully you get the gist of how it works. It is so cool in person with that extra little opening, and I know you're going to really like making one yourself. All right, let's get all of the cards over here again. Clean up our area, and we'll show you everything. So we have all of these cards. I have all vertical cards. Isn't that crazy? I didn't even realize. So here are all 5 of the cards that you will have in your kit. Remember, all you need to do is place a $55 order anytime between now and August 27th of 2025. Just go to toocoolstamping.com, click on the Shop Now link, and place your order. You'll get all the parts and pieces to create these beautiful cards, and they will include the designer series paper, I promise. I'll also do all of the die cut cardstock pieces. Anything that is stamped and then die cut, you will have scrap paper that you start with. It's just because it's a little bit difficult to stamp onto a die cut piece. So I want you to stamp those, then die cut those or cut those out yourself. But you'll have all of the other cardstock die cuts and the background die cuts and labels and things like that. You just supply the Impressions Abloom stamp set, the bundle if you want the dies to make it easier, and then you'll need to have the inks and adhesives as well. I will have the tutorial for you to be able to put it together step by step, and those kits will go out at the end of this month. So thank you so much for joining me. If you have any questions, please feel free to leave those in the comments. Also, I wanted to make sure that you knew if you're not interested in purchasing, maybe you're a demonstrator or you already have this stamp set or whatever the case may be, if you just want to purchase the kit only with all the supplies, you can do that as well. Just simply message me and I'll give you more details about that. You can also just purchase the tutorial if you like that. So just message me and let me know, and I'll give you full details on that. We can get that done. Just make sure that you do it before August 27th is the end of the earning period. All right, everyone, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate you being here, and I look forward to speaking with you again and showing you lots of other new projects when we have another live class. Until then, this is Angie with Too Cool Stamping. See you soon. Bye-bye.